Dan, the Chiefs beat the Dolphins back in November. What did you learn from watching the tape in that game? You also called that game in Germany.
Two things that stood out specific to Miami's run game. The Chiefs had a pretty good plan for their pre-snap motion, some tells of who it was going to be, and then how they wanted to defend some of the perimeter runs that Miami is so good at. So the corner and the nickel are important to pay attention to. You're going to see Tyreek peeking inside. He's basically telling the defense, I'm peeking inside because I have to see when Tua is going to tell me to go in motion. Kansas City automatically counters with the nickel off the edge and then what we call a hard corner. He's got to keep outside contained. They blitzed the backside of that pressure. That was the key for that game. Again, you're looking to see what part of the defense is going to slant? Who's peeking into Tua because he's in the gun and you got to hear or see instead of hearing. The tight end's peeking inside. The defense triggers again off the backside. They slant away from the blitz. That helps them to one. You saw the first snap where they ran towards the pressure and they were right there. The next one they run away from the pressure and the slant away. So I think Miami's got to counter some of the information that they might give pre-snap with their movement and how Kansas City is going to try to blitz into it or away from it.
I love that tape because we think of Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, as being a brilliant blitz designer. But what you highlighted there is that they went into that game with a very specific game plan up front to stop the Dolphins' run game. It's the types of runs that the Chiefs have had some lack of success with this year, to the perimeter, off tackle, using motion. Dan, I think in this game, especially given the conditions, we will see something similar from this Chiefs defense. Yeah. They will be prepared, especially on those first couple of series, for Miami to run the ball. So I think for Mike McDaniel, it becomes a question of, okay, what kind of adjustments you can make in the run game? And then if, let's say, you fall behind a score, do you stick with it? Because there will be the temptation to go away from it. But again, I really think on the ground is where Miami has the biggest advantage. So as the game progresses, if they are still within striking distance, he needs to continue running the football.
On the other side of this matchup, the Dolphins will be without at least 5 defensive starters for this game against Kansas City. It's tomorrow, by the way. In addition to that, both of their starting safeties are listed as questionable. All 7 of the players on this list played against the Chiefs back in Week 9, where the Dolphins held that Chiefs offense to just 14 points. RC, where should this beat-up Dolphins defense aim their focus to try to slow down the Chiefs? It's an offense that hasn't been great, but there's so many guys missing.
Yeah, well, if you're Vic Fangio, you got to figure out how we're going to get pressure on the Kansas City Chiefs when they pass, because we know that they're vulnerable at the tackle positions. There's no Phillips, no Chubb, no Van Ginkel. So you're going to see Vic Fangio have to get a little bit out of character in some of the things we saw him do last week against the Buffalo Bills and rush, whether it be an extra guy added to the rush, whether they go zero, finding ways to get the football out of Patrick Mahomes' hand quickly or force him into mistakes. And it's going to start by stopping the run. If you're the Miami Dolphins and you can stop the run, if Matt Nagy decides he's going to lean on Isaiah Pacheco, now Vic Fangio may be able to dial up some of those things that created some mistakes from Josh Allen last week.
Yeah, and to RC, the opportunities that you may have in the middle of the field. If you go back and watch Miami late in that game against Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid started to kind of assert themselves when he was matched up number 1 on safeties and linebackers. This has to be about Travis Kelce. Listen, we can start talking about the wide receivers and how they've come along. 87 is going to have a stamp on each and every game if Kansas City is going to have a chance and an opportunity to push themselves throughout this playoffs. Because when you get to this point, it's about the Jimmy and the Joes, but Miami has shown vulnerability in that area that he works of the football field. Look, man, I have all of the confidence in the world that Patrick Mahomes is going to play well. We've talked about it all season long. Yes, he had some unconventional interceptions. It was at a higher rate than we've grown accustomed to. A bit of that from pressing, some of that from making some terrible throws in and out games. He's most comfortable with him at 87 or on the same page, and even in some improv situations. That's going to have to come to the forefront for the Kansas City Chiefs outside of their defense, trying to stymie and stifle people all game long.
All right, like I told you guys off the top of the show, we're picking all of the games in this Super Wild Card weekend. Let's start with our game picks for this one. We're all on the Chiefs.
Heavenly Father.
Anybody wants to make a change, you can. I mean, listen, I'm going with the Chiefs for what Marcus just talked about with Mahomes.
Heavenly Father.
Anybody want
Father,
to change?
forgiveness. They know not what they do.
I'm not changing.
I'm not either.
I also don't really care if I'm right.
I don't either.
I love being right, though.
Man. All right, Dan, you changing? You going
I'm
with the
okay
Dolphins?
if I'm not right.
I'm going
This
Kansas
is-
City.
I'm okay if I'm not right, but this is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's been
If
enough for
anybody-
us to acknowledge that this is a real thing.
All right, so if anybody at home doesn't know, there is a thing called the NFL Live Curse where we are all on the same team. That team usually loses. We'll see if it's proven right once again.
Paying attention to how those two teams played last year leads me to think like Dallas early on will try to throw the ball outside.
I got to give my sister MK some love because she talked about this game and how Green Bay played against Chicago up front. And I kind of wanted to go back to that picture and see what they were doing. That is the unit that's going to have to be the defensive leaders in this game if Green Bay is going to have a chance to win this game. And they're creating one-on-ones, and they're doing it in a very unique way. We've talked about simulated pressure, but they're bringing Quay Walker from a little bit of off the ball to create these one-on-ones, and then Luke Van Ness gets in for a sack. But not only that, it's the occupy, right? This is a simulated. He shimmies. They create a game inside. They need this one-on-one for their guard not to help. 76 is in no man's land. Justin scrambles up, and Quay Walker is there waiting on him. And these are some of the things we've seen Dallas offensive line struggle with. We've seen people get after those tackles when they don't have help. So this will be something I'm sure they want to bring into this game. They did it against an athletic quarterback. They mixed in some five-man pressure and simulated to make sure that they could keep Justin Fields bottled up. But I think this game, it'll be about getting their guys singled up on these offensive linemen and seeing if they can get to work on Dak Prescott. Cut the head off the snake as opposed to what Dan just talked about, trying to cover these dudes on the back end.
Really quick, though, you wonder how much of that was wanting to spy Justin Fields, right? Yeah. We saw late in the game, Quay Walker steps up and gets a sack when Justin Fields tries to escape. And the other thing is if you're going to try to occupy guys with Quay Walker, what about the way that CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson can work the middle of the field?
That's a really good point. Yeah, we've seen him be extremely successful alongside CeeDee Lamb. Mina, on the other side of the ball, how do you see the Packers game planning for this Cowboys defense with Jordan Love at the helm?
It's a harder matchup for the Packers offense because the Cowboys defense is much better than the Packers defense. But I think there's a couple things they can take advantage of, areas where Dallas has struggled. One, and I know Marcus would go to this first, they struggle to defend runs, particularly runs to the outside. They're actually last in success rate in that metric. And the Green Bay, I think, has the ability to attack them that way with both Aaron Jones, who was excellent in Week 18, but also Jordan Love, who's an underrated scrambler. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw in a couple designed runs for him as well. And then the other thing that I think is worth noting, another area where Dallas has struggled is when quarterbacks are on the move. On designed rollouts, they're actually 24th in EPA per play, and Love has been excellent throwing on the move. First in yards per play, second in EPA per play on the boots. His arm talent enables him to make difficult throws even when defenders are bearing down on him and lead his speedy young wide receivers to get yards after the catch. So that's something I'd also like to see out of with Green Bay, the boot game.
I'm looking for Aaron Jones in this run game. You go back to last week, he averaged 5 yards a carry versus the Chicago Bears, but it was on the perimeter. There was a lot of misdirection. And if you go back to the Miami Dolphins game, there was a lot of going behind the line of scrimmage and searching out and having that misdirection led by whether it was a fullback or a tight end, and also some unblocked defensive ends, which we've seen teams utilize against Micah Parsons as well. And so I look forward to seeing how they utilize the run game. That's Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and how they adjust off of that to get into play action if they start to wear down the Dallas Cowboys up front.
Yeah, RC, that's a great point. I was going to piggyback on MK about the split flow. We talked about that earlier this year. Dallas has struggled on fits on the edge of the line of scrimmage. We talked about moving Micah Parsons in the middle, thinking that that could remedy some of that because of his sideline-to-sideline tracking ability. But this is one of those games where, as a defense on the edge, when you get this split flow and you get these tight ends either trying to create a bounce for the outside or dig guys out so Aaron Jones can be up through the center of the line of scrimmage, they have to be on the same page on the edges and with those linebackers about fits, because the fits are what creates the stoppage of the run. If you don't fit right, to your point, Aaron Jones could have a huge day on these runs just by scheme.
Real quick, Micah, on the ball or off the ball this week, RC?
I think he has to be both. And I think you have to be extremely smart if you're Dan Quinn about when.
By the way, I try to be real serious on this show, but after you said, Marcus, you were going to piggyback on Mina, I now have this visual of Mina Kimes giving Marcus Spears a piggyback
Let's
ride.
try it.
And that is a better visual than all
No,
of
you
us
don't.
picking the
That'll be the
Cowboys.
last piggyback ride she
flamingo.
gives.
like an overweight.
That'll be the last piggyback ride she
Piggy
gives.
ride. And somebody, please do like a Photoshop of that happening. Also, we all picked the Cowboys. That's crazy.
Flower.
She's really strong. I don't want to hear it. And star cornerback Denzel Ward suffered a knee injury in practice yesterday, is questionable for the game. However, Ward did post a video on social media of him running out of the tunnel, which could mean he feels like he's going to be able to go, reading between the lines a little bit there. Mina, how big of a deal is a healthy Denzel Ward to what the Browns want to do tomorrow, specifically against C.J. Stroud?
Yeah, it's a huge deal because of the opponent. I've loved watching the Texans offense this year with C.J. Stroud, Bobby Slowick, Nico Collins. But while they have been excellent against zone coverage, first in the NFL in EPA per play, against man coverage, that actually drops to 26. It's negative. And as you see here, the Browns are extremely, extremely good when Denzel Ward is on the field in man coverage. That QBR of 18, to put that in perspective, the worst quarterback in football this year is 30. So if he's on the field and he can help lock down, whether it's Nico Collins or whoever else, depending on where he's lined up, I think that would go a long way towards limiting a hot young quarterback who I think many of us believe has the potential to be very successful in the postseason.
Yeah, they're like two sorts of people that you can meet sometimes in this world, right? You meet that young, mature individual and you wonder how they got to be that way. And then you meet this old guy who wants to date a girl that's fresh out of college, right? And wants to have like the super hot car so he could feel young again. That's sort of what these two quarterbacks are. C.J. Stroud is extremely mature when you talk about the way he values the football. This is the quarterback that led the league in touchdown to interception ratio, the first rookie to ever do it. And then you have Joe Flacco on the other side, who you can tell is in sort of a midlife crisis when it comes to protecting the football. 8 interceptions already quarterbacking this team because he living like YOLO. He was like, it was once taken away from me. I got it back. I'm going to let it fly.
He's a newly single man.
He's a newly single man, right? And then you
I think he's married, but anyway.
We're talking about with the football.
Totally, got it. I just want to clarify.
And then you think about what this defense is, the Cleveland Browns on the road. Yeah. We talk about them being the #1 defense in the league. They give up over 29 points a game in road games. And now you're playing a team like C.J. Stroud and the Texans who know how to protect the football. They also know how to take advantage when you give them opportunities down the football field. And so I think when you look at Bobby Slowick and Jim Schwartz and sort of this chess match that's going to go on between the two, I believe C.J. Stroud is the right person to be at the helm making those decisions.
Yeah, that's well said. I love this matchup because I think this game comes down to, for either defense, who defends the play-action pass the best. Both teams are great at it, and we got to know why. First of all, both teams line their offensive line up with their hands in the dirt, 2 points. Second of all, when the ball gets snapped, they make contact and affect that second level of defense. Third, the quarterback goes from under center and turns his back to the defense and hides the football. And that affords great pockets and protection, right? That's why they're so good at it, and that leads to shots downfield. This throw by CJ is great, but Cleveland is just as good at it. And why? Well, offensive line start with their hands in the dirt, flat back. Number 2, Joe Flacco, when he turns and watches the defense, he hides the football. They're searching for the ball right now. 3, there's another great pocket for a quarterback to deliver a strike in. And I think that's going to be the most interesting thing is, while both teams are great at it offensively, what's the defensive counter? Now, I wanted to grab your perspective real quick because I would tell from an offensive person, like, the way to stop it, you got to blitz the play action protection from the outside. And 2, that second level's got to get great depth. Is there another thing that is important?
Well, first off, you're talking about the blitz. Those are going to be run blitzes that are going to be converted to pass blitzes, right, when you realize it's not a pass. But on the other side of it is, it's about finding timely ways to get eyes on the quarterback. When you look at what you have to do against these sorts of play-action teams, it's keep the top on the defense and then give your underneath coverage opportunities to see the quarterback. When you don't see the quarterback in these sorts of situations, it's just a way for them to just pick you apart because now you're always chasing.
I got you.
I think worth noting, there were some guys who weren't in the game last time they played when they got carved up by play action. Will Anderson Jr., Blake Cashman, the linebacker, quietly a very important person on this Texans team. And while Cleveland reputationally is a great running team, they are not a good running team anymore. So if I'm Houston, to Dan's point about depth, I play the pass more aggressively than the run in this game and count on your defensive line, those edges who are so good against the run, to help you out up front.
Fascinating. The Browns, by the way, 1.5-point favorites. This is the closest spread in any game this weekend. We're going to put our picks up here. As you can see, Marcus on the Texans, Dan and Mina on the Browns. The rest of us are on the Texans. So we all picked the Chiefs. We all picked the Cowboys. We got a little split up there. Let's go to the Steelers and the Bills. Bummer news for Buffalo as wide receiver Gabe Davis has been ruled out with a PCL sprain. On the other side of things, Steelers safety Minka Fitzpatrick was a full participant at practice yesterday. Important to have leaders back on that defense with TJ Watt out. They are expecting a lot of snow in the forecast in Buffalo. The Bills tweeted they're looking for shovelers to get to the stadium to get it ready for Sunday's playoff game. They're offering $20 an hour. The only catch is they're asking you to bring your own shovel if possible. So
what type of foolishness is that?
I got
$20 an hour to shovel?
Bro,
what if it only takes an hour? You get $20?
Bro, I got 3 sons.
Man, I wish.
No.
Let's go make some money.
But Dan, how should the Lions try to defend this Rams offense in Stafford's return?
What they've done the past couple weeks is they've taken a third down defense and really put it on first down. That's the only way that they can try to slow down this Rams offense is blitz them every first down they get the chance. You're going to see it's a very similar offense, right? Under center, play action. That's who the Rams are. Kevin O'Connell from the Minnesota Vikings, first down, and there comes off-ball linebacker, sack. They've really caught and bought into, let's take third down, and instead of running it on third down, get creative with some of our pressures on first down. Backside nickel, frontside backer pressure, backside defensive tackles ready for that bootleg game, that play action that the Rams love to run. First down, they have to try to create either tackle for loss or a sack. Backside corner comes, pressure, unblocked the defensive end, Aiden Hutchinson for a huge sack. I'll be interested to see if Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, continues to buy into that because everyone knows when you bring pressure, there's opportunity. When you bring pressure, there's opportunity for us as an offense as well. So I think it's their best bet to try and slow down a really explosive offense.
Okay, do you know who Matthew Stafford is not? Nick Mullins, right? That's first. But I do want to say this. Go back to the New York Giants game, right, when you're facing Wink Martindale for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep.
There was pressure on Matthew Stafford. They were able to create turnovers, but they also gave up big plays. Sure. And so Detroit is going to have to hedge their bets and say, you know what, if we can force Matthew Stafford into some mistakes, that's good enough for us because we know we can't stop him in 4-man rushes. And if I'm Detroit, I make sure that we put him on his back foot. We make Matthew feel that pressure and throw into coverage because we saw against the New York Giants how that was effective. But there were also big plays by Puka Nacua. We saw guys like Cooper Kupp get down the sideline against the Washington Commanders. And so when you're playing this team, especially a quarterback that's as dialed in as Matthew, if you go after him, you better get to him.
The Rams in general have struggled against pressure this year as an offense in general.
Yeah, which is, I think, the biggest difference, by the way, from the Super Bowl. As good as this Rams offense has been, Stafford's not unblitzable the way he was that year. I agree with you, Dan, and I think it highlights what I feel about this game, which is it's going to be won or lost for Detroit defensively on first down. Because of what the Rams can do with both the run and the pass, how balanced they are. The run game, we've talked about all year, has been sensational. They've really rebuilt this thing. The blocking is excellent. Everybody blocks in this offense. Kyron Williams is terrific. However, he's terrific, and he's putting up these great numbers in part because he runs into more light boxes than any running back in football because defenses are so afraid of the passing attack. So the Detroit defense is mostly a single high unit. They typically drop a safety into the box, but if they do so, the Rams will punish them with the play action pass, those deep crossers and explosives. Yeah. So I think for the Lions, you need to get them into predictable down and distances because on first down, you are the most vulnerable to this iteration of the Rams offense.
Yeah, RC brought up the New York Giants game. Another thing the Giants did a phenomenal job was stopping the run. And I look at the Rams and I think about these guys with the ball in their hands and run after the catch. That's why if I'm the Los Angeles Rams and I am going to get pressure from Aaron Glenn, the screen game is going to be a big part of what I do off of motion, off of pre-snap motion with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and obviously Kyron Williams. we used to always say as a defense, if teams are going to slow us down, it's going to be because we get gashed in the run game by somebody being undisciplined and out of their gap, or they're going to hit a screen underneath all of our aggressive pursuit to the quarterback. Sean McVay has shown that he has an intricate screen game. I think it'll help Matthew Stafford get more comfortable, and that is something that I think the Rams can take advantage of if Aaron Glenn decides to add that pressure on first down.
No, ain't no way. Not for
I didn't
this
see
one.
this one coming.
Everybody. Okay,
No,
you know what?
no,
you know what?
I'm not doing
Okay.
it.
I'm a trade.
I'll do it.
I'm going Detroit.
Oh.
I'll
Detroit.
go Detroit.
All right.
I'm
Detroit.
going Detroit.
Fix the graphic.
I thought I
Fix
was
the
going to be
graphic.
alone.
Detroit.
Hey,
Fix
people
the
at
graphic.
home, if
I
you
want
are
a
gonna,
good game.
if you're
I
gonna
want a
try
good
to
game. I don't
screenshot
care
this,
who wins. I want a good game.
Can we switch
can't
it?
Fix the
We don't have
graphic,
enough time to switch it?
but it's okay.
So-
It's okay because
Oh,
Ryan.
God.
Well, I took it back.
Lions,
I took it back.
okay?
The whole world knows.
Just remember it. Enjoy the weekend,
done.
and we'll see you
I
on
took the
Monday.
Lions.
Done. Matthew